What's up, guys? It's your boy. Sorry I've been gone so long. It's a long story. Basically, I'm a school teacher in my real life, and it just kind of scared me off of posting on here for a while. And also, I've been in like a super, super deep depression, quarter life crisis type thing, which is adjacent to what this video is about. And I just haven't had the energy or the passion to like make videos in a long time. But now I'm doing a lot better, and I really want to. Plus, I'm just going to kind of redirect the channel a little bit and make like passion project type videos about things that I really love again. And that's really what it's all about anyway. And yeah, aka Reed from Shameless Nerd. I was born in 1996, and that means that I am one of a small number of people on Earth who remember being a conscious, thinking human being before the internet existed, but who is also young enough to have been the perfect age to understand and immediately adopt and adapt to life on the internet as it was introduced to normal people and has evolved over the years. I remember dial-up internet and very slowly downloading pictures of Jennifer Aniston pixel by aching pixel. I coded horrifying wallpapers into my MySpace and painstakingly ranked my best friends publicly. I used AIM, MapQuest, StumbleUpon.com, RIP, man, what a website. And I played Club Penguin and Neopets and Toontown. All of that. I watched Saddam Hussein's literal hanging on this website. That's not an exaggeration. That was really just on here. I grew up alongside, in the internet. And my formative years were spent balancing on a thumbtack, on one side of which was Mountain Dew Code Red, Little Caesars, and a porn addiction. And on the other side was skateboarding, digging 6-foot deep holes in my principal's yard, and lighting M80s and trying to throw them into the chimneys of my neighbors' houses. These are hypothetical scenarios, of course. Both of these seem negative, right? Those are many of the things that I spent my time doing, hypothetically. But I learned so much from the internet. As an adult, I'm better, more capable, more well-rounded, more complex, smarter because of it. And I also learned so much from interacting with the kids in the neighborhood, keeping myself occupied by walking around outside, riding bikes with the kids I just happened to be around, which is an important concept I'll come back to later. Like skimboarding in the drainage ditch next to my best friend's house, stuff like that. And that stuff taught me just as much, if not more. And I'm not talking about learning in the traditional curricular sort of sense. It's something else. It's something I've been thinking about a lot, and it's what this video is about. I think of it as two different kinds of learning. Like, I'm just making this up, but I'm going to call them stimulatory, which is like from the internet, and fundamental, which is like from running around and doing stupid stuff. Neither of these are the same as or a replacement for school education, but both are more important in a deeper philosophical way, in my opinion, and one far more so than the other. So, Chapter 1. The two types of subconscious learning. First, what I'm calling stimulatory learning is self-motivated, deliberate acquisition of personal, hyper-specific skills that are in direct response to like an external stimulus. I'm 13, I go on MySpace, I see my friend Nelson's neon green $ gangster SpongeBob MySpace wallpaper, my brain lights up and sends me chemicals that go, ooh. And then I spend 6 hours reading blog posts about how to do basic HTML coding so that I can do something similar for my MySpace profile. This knowledge later extends to like a rudimentary understanding of how web pages work, sure. But even more importantly, it's teaching me how to research, how to sift through search results for things that are applicable to my current specific task at hand, how to problem solve, how to maintain focus on a menial task given the self-set promise of something personally fulfilling. 6 people at most are going to see my MySpace page. 13-year-old me knows that, but I like the wallpaper. I want it. And 6 hours later, I do it. And that's a vital lesson for a kid to learn. One more example. I'm a massive music fan. Some would say a music snob, probably. I'm a musician myself, and listening to music is something that has always been extremely important to me. I got an iPod for Christmas. This was very cool. I wanted one. However, the most recent Ryan Cabrera album is $7 on iTunes. I'm 11. I don't have $7. Well, in the mid-early internet days, early 2000s, there were a lot more people in this predicament than there are now, and there were very many file sharing websites like Mediafire, 7Share, ZippyShare, BearShare. I still remember a lot of them. And with a little patience, I could find the Fall Out Boy album I wanted, download it, install a RAR decoder, unpack the file, import it into iTunes, correctly title, label, and order all the songs on the album, download the album cover, import that, and boom, I'm the proud owner of A Fever You Can't Sweat Out by Panic! At the Disco. This is another good example of what I'm calling stimulatory knowledge. No one told me to learn how to illegally download music or organize files in a database. I figured it out because me like never shout never. And these are good skills to have. I'll talk in a later video about how I'm actually using some of them right now again. But more importantly, I learned how to refine my taste. It takes 30 minutes to find and organize that album. So what do I really like and how much do I like it? I learned prioritization tactics. Is it really worth the time to download All Time Low's second album when the original version of Lullabies from the Party Scene EP is better anyway? And I learned stick-to-itiveness and perseverance and the pride in owning a collection of something hard-earned, even if I stole it. These are lessons that the early internet taught that I think were actually really well suited to be taught in the way that they were. And I think that level of intrinsically motivated sort of passion-based self-teaching is really hard to drill into a 12-year-old's brain if not for the internet. And that's pretty cool. The other type of subconscious learning I'm calling fundamental learning. And this is a little more abstract, but this is the other major positive byproduct of my thumbtack upbringing, in my opinion. I was bored as a kid. I was really bored a lot of the time, and that is so beautiful to be bored. I was so deeply, insatiably bored so often when I was a kid, and truthfully, I don't think I've been bored in that way in probably 10 years. There is nothing more powerful than being bored. Just beyond the walls of boredom, through a little door you might not notice if you don't sit in being bored long enough, you make it outside, through boredom and into creativity. Adults aren't creative, not because they can't be creative, but because they aren't bored. You make stuff up when you're bored. You work hard when you're bored. When you have nothing to do, nothing to occupy your mind, truly nothing, like throwing a tennis ball straight up in the air and trying to just barely not hit the ceiling, but get as close as you can, catching it and doing it again for hours, level bored. When you're that bored, work sounds fun. That's when chores get done. That's when songs get written. That's when games get made up. That's when you beat the video game you've been struggling to finish. That's when you paint, draw, write, act, build, make, read, sing, dance. You have to be bored first. You have to want to escape. And I was so bored, and I wanted to escape so bad. And that's the central tenet of the fundamental learning, or whatever I'm calling it. It was learning to be bored, to self-entertain. And everything else came from that foundational drive. That's how I learned those subtle, unteachable skills. I learned how to persuade. You try convincing your little brother to let you kick his ass in basketball for the 5th time today. I learned how to lead, try to organize a neighborhood-wide game of manhunt with 35 kids ranging in age from 7 to 14. I learned how to think outside the box, to connect the dots, to enjoy and experience and be present in the world around me. I learned how to cooperate. I didn't like all the kids in my neighborhood. They were just the kids that were available. Honestly, some of my main neighborhood friends were triplets, and triplets are weird as hell. But I learned to make do, how to drag excitement up from the depth of apathy and find strange, novel things to experience, because if I didn't, my only other option was to watch Rock of Love with Bret Michaels on MTV, and I'd already seen every episode. Chapter 2. Okay, cool, so what? What's your point? Well, my point is this. Stimulatory learning has been slowly, methodically, deliberately, algorithmically destroyed by the modern internet. And fundamental learning is harder when you have the responsibilities and stresses of adulthood multiplied by a magic box in your hand whose sole purpose was refined by the smartest people in the history of the planet to predatorily, ruthlessly, desperately steal your attention for any unallocated literal second of the day. Everything that existed on the early internet has been replaced. All subtle opportunities for that stimulatory learning are gone because there's no more seeking out information for casual consumers. There is only algorithmic delivery of information to you. Everything's been made into an app, streamlined and optimized for the easiest, simplest, most convenient, user-friendly experience possible. Which means that people being raised on the internet the same way we were before don't actually learn how to do anything there, because technology's evolved alongside the humans using it to a point at which it does everything for us. There are very few 13-year-olds who know how to troubleshoot something because everything just works now, which is great, but it's also creating interesting paradoxes. Like a 2021 study by the University of Toledo showed that Gen Z is the first generation since the introduction of modern technology, I'm talking like 1850s industrialization era type stuff, to be less tech savvy on average than the previous generation. The ways in which we interact with the internet and technology have evolved, and we now consume on the internet passively, mindlessly scrolling what the internet has decided we will like, whereas priorly we consumed actively, seeking out what we decided we like. And this shift might seem subtle, but it's very important. A super interesting and worrying compilation study done in 2020 by the Department of Cellular Neurobiology in Braunschweig, Germany, which I'll link to in the description, highlights direct correlations in modern internet use and deficits in working memory. Plasticity in the brain, which is like your ability to learn new things. And the study also shows a, quote, clear correlation observed between intensive early childhood digital media use and poorer microstructural integrity of white matter tracts in the area of the brain which contribute most directly to language comprehension and capacity. And the study goes on and on and on, and it's really, really cool and frankly pretty scary. You should read it. Anyway, my point is just that the internet was monetized long ago. The most powerful corporations in the world have spent the last 15 years or so paying the smartest people in the world as much money as they need or want in order to make the internet a place that eliminates those opportunities for stimulatory learning that I was talking about. Not because it's trying to eliminate those opportunities, but because those opportunities lie in inconvenience and hours spent circumnavigating a hostile user experience. Inconvenience is completely eradicated. So there just isn't a way for young people to fall into these accidental learning experiences like we did. Because it's not like I was learning on purpose. I was 12. I would never have learned anything on purpose because learning is lame and not cool, and I want to listen to Soulja Boy. And not to mention the way that modern social media attacks your dopamine reward center and effectively hijacks your brain chemistry to ensure that you'll never be happy again, but I'll save that for another day in another video. Okay, so the stimulatory sort of learning is not as accessible, at least in the same form as it used to be on the internet. What about fundamental learning? Well, this is much simpler. Fundamental learning is everywhere, but adult life endeavors to distract us from it. It's just an inevitability of growing up. All of a sudden, we have to work jobs we don't like, and many of us spend our entire days begrudgingly suffering through menial tasks we don't want to do until we can get home just in time to be so mentally exhausted we become easy prey for the all-seeing eye of the TikTok algorithm, and we fall victim to its predatory timeline and spend the rest of our free time on a weekday doom-scrolling rage-bait videos of Ben Shapiro. And then we go to bed. And then we do this again 5 more times, interrupted only by obligations to housekeeping and homemaking, cooking and cleaning, making sure the kids get where they need to go, so on and so forth. And on the weekend, we need to recharge. So we watch 7 hours of commercial-free football in the Octobox with Scott Hansen on NFL Red Zone and drink a bottle of red wine. Am I just talking about my own life, or is this relatable to anyone? Adults aren't bored. We don't have the luxury of being bored. There's too much to do. And without being deeply bored, how does reading a book ever seem palatable? Well, I'm going to make a drastic suggestion based partially on anecdotal evidence, but also based in research. Get off your phone. Build inconvenience back into your life on purpose and make your actions deliberate again. Make the internet a newspaper, a thing that you interact with at the end of a long day on purpose under strict conditions, and then put the newspaper down and do something else. This is going to be possible because of a seemingly counterintuitive phenomenon called media fatigue or internet fatigue, depending on where you read about it. The World Health Organization recognized the term in 2019 and called it a syndrome, as in this is a real diagnosable mental disorder. The National Institute of Health also officially recognized it as a real disorder in 2024. Basically, one of the primary reasons we are so lethargic after work, why we have no mental capacity to do anything active, why we need to just shut our brains off after work and enter autopilot doom scrolling Twitter or TikTok, is because of Twitter and TikTok. Our interaction with the internet and modern technologies is self-perpetuating. We are addicted to the thing that is causing our addiction, almost like a real drug, because it is a real drug. And the good news is, these addictions don't cause withdrawals in the same way that cigarettes or alcohol do. And this is where I'm going to get a little more anecdotal. In my experience, when you get off your computer, when you delete the TikTok app, when you stop compulsively checking your phone, within days, your energy comes back. And it makes sense because you're literally removing the cause of your fatigue. And in doing so, you free up all the time, of course, but more importantly, you free up the energy to do something during that time. And I've been reading books. I've been going on walks. I've been writing music and video scripts and being present in the moment, playing with my 3-year-old son and petting my cat and learning how to cook new things, playing with Legos, painting. I could go on and on. All of the things that I've wanted to do forever, not that I've wanted to play Legos forever, but whatever, you get my point. But I didn't have the time to make happen. All of a sudden, there's time to do it. I mean, go to your phone settings and look at your screen time. I'm not going to call out a certain number as like worrying or not, but imagine if you had all that time. And in that time, you had the energy and motivation to work out or build that thing you've been meaning to build, to do the laundry, to read that thing you used to enjoy. Chapter 3, Real Actionable Steps. So, what do we do? Well, I'll tell you what I've done, and maybe I've gone a little overboard, but I bought a modern take on an old bummy flip phone, so I could still have access to GPS because I suck at navigating in the car. I bought an iPod Classic. I've spent 15 hours downloading and organizing music perfectly legally, not stealing anything. I bought a camcorder. I have a purse now, essentially. And in it, I have a bunch of stuff. I have a book, whatever book I'm reading. I'm reading this book called Scythe. It's like a young adult fiction. I teach middle school, so I read a lot of like little kids. But it's a great book. It's not a little kid's book, but my iPod, which I jailbroke and like added a flash storage, so it has like 64 gigs on it. And I have these really nice headphones. I have 3 pocket notebooks. I'll do a video later on like what I use each one for. I have a camera. Well, I'm using the camera to film the video. Anyway, but you get the idea. I have a bunch of stuff. But I carry all this stuff with me, and every action that I take is deliberate. I no longer have something on my person at all times that is actively trying to steal my attention. I opt to give my attention to things that I want to look at or do. And at the end of every night, I allow myself 30 minutes to watch YouTube or scroll Twitter on my computer. Guess what? I almost never choose Twitter. I have no idea what's going on in the news, which I know is a point of privilege, and I understand that, but it's done wonders for my mental health. I average about 45 minutes of screen time per day, counting my 30 minutes at the end of the night. The other 15 is texting friends or picking songs in my iPod. It's certainly higher when I'm editing a video or working on music I'm making, but I'm not counting that because those are things that I specifically gave up my phone to make time for. And guys, I am a different person. It's been like 3 months, and I am a completely different person. I have struggled with deep, truly at times crippling anxiety and depression. It's part of why I've taken such a long break from this channel. I've been a bad friend and partner at times. I've been lazy and haven't taken care of my physical health. And bro, I'm telling you, all of that has completely shifted, like so drastically that I'm not even sure if I can actually trace it back to my forfeiture of the internet or if there's been some like spiritual, universally inexplicable shift in my life that I have no control over. I think it's the former because the timelines match up, but the change in my mental health has been so insane and transformative that I just don't even know if it could actually be that simple. But either way, it's worth a shot. So am I saying you need to do all that I've done to desperately try to get back to 2004? Not really. I think that probably everyone should, if you can, honestly, because of my own philosophical beliefs about our lives. Another thing I'll make a video about later. But no, I don't think that it's necessary to make a difference. I think the biggest thing you can pretty easily do to see a big change is treat the internet like a newspaper. Challenge yourself to consume the internet only deliberately for a while and see if that makes a difference. See how long you can go without checking your phone. Turn off all notifications except texts and calls and emails, I guess, if you have to for work. Make your interactions with the internet things that you independently decide to take on instead of interactions forced upon you. And like our dads did in the early 90s, at the end of the day, before you go to bed or when you wake up on a Sunday, take 30 minutes to read the newspaper and then put it down and go about your life. Thanks for watching. See y'all next time.